Watching the Iowa State UNI game, I went into the game thinking we're going to see, a different Iowa State team just do the suspensions.
Yeah.
They were very impressive.
Welcome back to the ANF Podcast, where we cover Iowa sports.
Today we're going to be recapping the Utah State game and then previewing the Iowa State game and then wrapping up with some picks. It's hate week. It's a gigantic week within the state of Iowa.
Right.
The tailgate scene is going to be insane.
Mm-hmm. We'll be down there.
We're going to be down there. We're going to be partying.
We'll be names.
We're going to hop into a brief recap of now Utah State, what we saw. We'll start with the defense. I think our main question going into the game was what were we going to see from Jay Higgins?
Yeah, middle linebacker was, essentially what I stated. It was a big concern of mine. How was Higgins going to play? It was his first start, in that role. It's a very difficult position to play at Iowa, and it's kind of the key, linchpin of our defense. And he played outstanding.
He was, I think, the best player on the defense. Mm-hmm. And I think what I like so much about it, granted, he is just an eliminator when it comes to tackling the ball. You see him get around guys, he just ragdolls everyone. Mm-hmm. Super strong guy. But he was really intelligent with his play. Right. I can think back to two plays where we blitzed him on off C-gap, and they tried to run a screen behind him, and he recognized it instantly, almost picked it off. Only other play that I would give him where he has room to grow, this is my only critique, is we had a 4th and 1 where we rolled him backside to C so he could play the backside QB read. Mm-hmm. The QB read came, and instead of shooting up field and maybe trying to make the play behind the line and getting the turnover on downs, he sat back and ate it.
Right.
But other than that, I guess the other play I was going to mention was they spread him out into 5 wide, and he was matched up on the inside slot receiver. Mm-hmm. And the receiver ran sort of a delay, ran kind of a shimmy at the 3-yard mark. Mm-hmm. He didn't bite on that at all, sat on the play, and the guy ran right to him. But overall, he just had a fantastic game.
Yeah, and I think my other question mark was actually the one tech. Our one technique who plays between guard and center every single play was going to be Black and Graves or a mixture of Pittman. We didn't know how the D-line rotation was going to work out. I felt early in the game, they really held up. Essentially, Utah State deployed the 2021 Penn State game plan against us after the first drive. So the first drive was only focused on Deshaun Lee. Yeah. They got the injury report. Jamari Harris was out. Like every good offense coordinator, like, ooh, redshirt freshman corner. We're going to attack him right away. They went bubble screens. I think they threw some out routes towards him. Essentially, the first possession, maybe second possession as well, was only targeted at him. Yeah. And he essentially answered the bell right away. Yeah. I think he only missed, both those plays. They had 2 bubble screens. I think he shut them both down. And they're like, well, that's not working. We got to mix it up. And then they went to the 2021 Penn State game plan where they spread everyone 4 wide, sometimes even motioning the running back out and get a 5 wide look, and really stacking the receivers too. So you're even, extending the field even more, pushing the safeties out wider. And then they just ran out of that consistently. Mm-hmm. And I was very, happy with how the D-line played. Yeah. Because they're, in that situation, it's
5 on 4.
It's 4 D linemen, 1 middle linebacker versus 5 offensive linemen and a running back and a quarterback. So 7 on 5 every play. And against
with the QB, you can hold the ball too.
And the QB can run. So for generally in that situation, if you're scheming up as an offense coordinator, you're like, we have a 2-man numbers advantage. We probably have the weight advantage on the offense line as well, generally. And the D-line just stiffened up so well. Early in that game, it was everything I wanted to see, for holding those blocks. And from the moment we saw that where they couldn't run out of a 7v5 advantage, I think Kirk probably felt very comfortable. And then you take that 2-possession lead, and he's like, all right, we got this. Yeah. And then we took that 14-point lead and started turning into a Kirk game 1. Yeah. Essentially. But I think those were the 2 question marks I had was, how's one tech going to play? How's MLB going to play?
Well, I think we covered it in the last game's preview, but we anticipated I would be pretty passive with how we approach this offense. Mm-hmm. That was even expounded upon because of the early 2-score lead. Right. So then now, if we've been a part of any, Kirk Ferentz blowout, the defense essentially is going to let you milk the clock yourself.
Right. They did a 16-play drive for a field goal, and that was like, oh, do that every drive. Yeah. Down by 14. Yeah.
And this kind of brings me to my next point. What we did see a brief alteration what we usually run. We do run a fair amount of cover 3, but in this season, I think we're going to see a lot of it this year because of X. Playing X in that high safety where he now can, basically manage between 2 seam route shots. It's what you have to attack in that fast, especially if it's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7.
And he had 2 incredible plays out of that play this game.
Well, one of them we were in kind of like a 0 blitz look, and we rotated late to the cover 3. QB read the late drop, seam shot is the only shot there. When you see a 0-0 coverage, you're actually going to try and run something across the middle of the field.
Yeah.
He didn't buy into that. He threw the seam, and X was almost late to it, still made the play.
Yeah.
And took a gamble too.
Right.
If he doesn't pick that ball, it's a touchdown.
Right.
So that's just a lot of self-belief.
Well, generally when someone has a targeted play against something that should work,
Yeah.
the best case scenario is you tackle them for a 15-yard gain, or
Yeah.
you just make the play. Don't maybe bat it away. That's the best case scenario in most cases. But to intercept it out of a cover 3 look where you're already kind of fading away, just based on your post-snap motion, you're coming actually away from that play, and then they come back into the play and then pick it. Was like, we just don't. It's why he's a 5-star.
Yeah.
That's the elevated type of play. Having a strong safety that can make that type of have that type of athleticism, and it's just all year. Parker, like seeing that early game 2 of his, he started in the bowl game.
We're going to roll to cover 3
a lot.
Yeah. And I love that aspect too, because then you're going to, we saw how cover 3 can get you beat though, because Cooper had that almost near pick 6 to start the game. It felt like he was pressing a bit. You can understand why. He's first team All-American, feels like he should impose his will on the game.
Little Desmond King 2016, where you felt like Desmond kind of pressed.
Even though Matt
season.
Hankins early in his senior year, where he's like, I need some picks if I'm going to the NFL.
Right.
So then they ran a short side of the field wide receiver stack, and they baited Cooper. You could see Cooper trying to sit down. It's a third down. He thought he was going to see a 7-yard curl on third down.
Yeah.
They run the seam actually inside of him. They complete it. When the ball was in the air and you see the guy open, I thought it was a touchdown.
It looked like a touchdown.
X eliminates it instantaneously. And that's why I think why we're going to see so much cover 3 this year is because he can clean up your problems on the back end. And just allowing Iowa just to be 5%, 10% more aggressive because of that talent back there, you're probably going to see another superb defense for that fact.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just such an advantage to have him back there. And I think the only negative I'd say on the defense was just I thought Nick Jackson still was playing kind of Virginia football.
Yep.
There was the difference between playing Virginia football and these man defenses where you're trying to one gap everything. He did that probably 2 or 3 times where it felt like he was dipping his shoulder around blocks. You saw on the screen pass where he tried to dip around the guard and make the play. And, he probably goes like, I'm just trying to make the play on the running back and stop for a 0 gain. But what Iowa wants you to do is 2-gap everything.
Yeah.
Even when the play even breaks down a little bit, we want you taking blocks head on and trying to stifle those blockers and putting, basically squeezing everything. If everyone plays that way, it's such a difficult, scheme to overcome.
It is.
And you saw him do that. I think I saw him in a run play as well, where he tried to shoot, try to
just
dip
going
around.
back to old tendencies.
Right. It's just his habits, and it's going to get coached out of him. He's got, he also had some very great good plays. He actually had one play where he was in a hook zone. He's got the flats and kind of like the, by the 10-yard lines to the sideline, and he sees the running back jump out, and he's like, oh, clearly they're trying to hit a slant behind me.
Because they already did that early in the game when the guy dropped the pass on third down.
Right. And
he
so he recognizes it. He has the, ability to see it, but he turns his back to the QB.
Yeah.
And the ball, it's a great play. It hits him right in his back. He did a great, saw the progression very well, but he turned his back.
Yeah.
And if you watch any of Campbell's film last year or any of Benson's, our linebackers never turned their back.
Yeah.
We're all about 22 eyes on the QB. That is the number one rule of zone defense is if your back's turned, you can't make a play on the ball. You can't make a pick.
Yeah.
Can't get a deflection. And so watching that play, I was like, man, he's kind of making these, almost good plays and made a very good play, but he's doing it in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, there's the transfer portal. It's like you have this premier guy, they're clearly starting him there, but he's kind of still playing out of...
He's learned how to play still.
Right.
And it's good. You'll get teachable film and hopefully make some corrections to it.
Or Fisher will start pushing for some of those spots.
I think a little bit of it's just probably nerves too. You know, it's a little overwhelming playing a new scheme.
Mm-hmm.
You're not really the guy that they're letting, play middle linebacker, make all the plays.
Right.
But I think slowly as we get farther into the season, he'll settle down.
Yeah.
He'll play more into the scheme.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just going to take time.
Yeah.
I think the only real negative aspect of this team, of the game from a defense perspective, was pass rush.
Yeah.
And I think, again, we've seen this a lot from Phil Parker's defense, is when we play a QB who can run, we don't really believe in his arm talent. The impetus is going to be put on keeping him in the pocket.
Right.
It's not going to be having pass rush moves where we can get upfield, maybe let him split guard center.
Yeah.
What I did like to see is that our 3 technique D tackles employed some very good pass rushes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you'll see when you play against these rushing QBs without much arm talent. It's just we're going to let the D tackles make moves. DNs are going to be playing more containment.
Yeah.
And the people, it's like, oh, people are going to freak out about the pass rush, but you have to understand scheme. You have to understand what was going on in game flow perspective.
Right, game flow. They're on 16 play drives.
Yeah.
So you're 14 plays into a drive, and you're basically getting ran at the entire drive.
Yeah.
As a D lineman, you have to win that 5-on-7 advantage every single play. So basically, you have to start playing run right away.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you can stop it for less than 3 yards.
Yeah.
And then if they do go pass, that's kind of a secondary thought for you at that moment, because your only moment there is to stop the run.
Yeah.
Now you need to break into a pass rush move, which usually has to be set up instantly. It's not something that you can get into after the play, and then it's more about contain anyway. So I think we did see one really good pass rush move by Joe Evans late when we anticipated.
Craig
the pass.
hit a nice one too.
Right.
Yeah.
But truly, between the 20s,
Yeah.
we're playing run every down.
Yeah.
We're not, the pass rush is only coming in effect if it's 3rd and 5 or longer.
Mm-hmm.
And still, it's more focused on contain than anything.
It is.
And so the pass rush, it did have that issue, but I kind of give that with like a grain of salt. It didn't really fit into the game plan or the game flow.
You're also again, another perspective too. Game flow. When we're going to let teams drive and hold on to the ball and milk the clock, you're going to have longer drives where the D line tires out.
Right.
Like if you get into a 7th or 8th play of a drive, odds are you're not going to have a very well rested D line until you could do some substitutions. But that's really not what we're trying to do in those moments.
Yeah.
I think we can move on to offense now.
I was just thinking about
but I think the headline of this is we probably just saw the best QB play we've seen in
a long time.
A long time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily the numbers. I mean, you had 2 touchdowns. Probably should have had 3 for him.
Yeah.
With limited mobility, like we probably didn't even get to see what Cade could deliver from the run game perspective, where you could QB draw, maybe a couple QB reads.
Yeah.
But what we want to highlight is how incredible he was with ball placement.
Oh, the accuracy was.
Well, it just the self-belief in his receivers, or the belief in his receivers. He had so many plays where you've seen from Iowa QBs, no one has that float ball that we've had at Iowa forever.
That back shoulder
float.
You saw Beathard would hit Vandenberg on that. Remember against Wisconsin 2015, we converted some big 3rd downs.
It still had more of a line to it, though.
It was a line drive. It was not the type of float accuracy that we saw with Cade.
Well, and another thing was when he would get zero blitzed against man-to-man, he didn't care. He would float back, the poise, the control he had at the line.
Yeah.
It's everything we could hope for from a QB's perspective. If you don't have Cade in that game is very tight.
Right.
He made every play we needed him to make.
My expectations were high for him.
Yeah.
He met those, as high as I cannot envision him playing better than that. And the accuracy in the first 10 throws he had, I think he had a far side throw to Reganey that was a 5-yard out, and he just handed it to him.
Yeah.
And I was like, that does not happen often. And then, like you mentioned, the receivers. We haven't had a receiver targeted in a non-schemed up play in 6 years since Stanley and Petrus never. I mean, if it was the ISM shot or if it was a Brandon Smith actual schemed play, they go to him. Obviously, under Petrus, he never looked at his receivers. He was finding his receivers in just standard, base play pass flows where it'd be a deep out.
Yeah.
And he was trying to give Anderson an opportunity to make a play on a 3rd and 10. That just hasn't been a part of our offense, and it just opens up the defensive play calling to have a lot more concern about those players. And it's going to open up the tight ends. It's going to open up the entire offense to know that if you give him the opportunity to throw a receiver in a beneficial look, he will throw it every time.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, it's probably the lowest percentage chance because his arm is not, extremely strong, 15 yards downfield to the wide side of the field. And the receivers aren't the best players on our team, but he will throw it. And that is just, it gives the offense so much more confidence to know that he can go to 6 or 7 guys on any play. It doesn't have to be Laporta on 3rd down 10 straight times.
Well, I think the controlled aggression thing we saw too. Where we talked about he trusts his receivers to make plays. It's a lot of it's based on his own ball placement. He believes okay, if I can put the ball in the spot where my guy can at least make a play on it, maybe we'll draw a PI.
Yeah.
Maybe the guy will catch it, but likely the defender's not going to make it. We saw 2 near picks, but they would have been absolutely incredible picks.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff you want. You have to live with that.
Beathard threw the most picks of anybody.
You're going to hold your breath for a moment,
right.
but that's how you have to play QB. It can't be just do no harm. Right. I throw to the wide open guy.
Yeah. And you have to press it a little bit. You have to have that aggressiveness towards it.
And for Cade, we're not going to, as we saw this game, we're not going to be an exceptionally good running team.
No.
So he's going to have to make plays. I think just from watching this game, I think we're going to be a 60-40 pass.
Yeah.
I think we're going to put
45, but I think we will be passing more.
When it's even, when it's 0-0 or we're down, we're throwing 2/3 of the time.
And pass pro was really good.
Pass pro was fantastic.
I think we saw one sack that happened. It was actually on the running back's fault.
Yeah.
It was LaShawn. It was a gap blitz from the linebacker. That's running back fills that every time.
Yeah.
That's the only breakdown I saw from any pass rush. You compare that to last year. How many times we watch a guy get beat one-on-one?
Yeah.
I don't think I watched one guy get beat one-on-one with a pass rush.
Yeah.
All game. So
and we threw a ton.
And he had plenty of time. Kate even brought up in the presser. I pumped. I hitched 2 or 3 times, and I still had the ability to come and check down.
Well, I think another perspective we have to put. So a lot of people complain about the run game. We didn't have any really explosive runs. Caleb looked a little, again, tentative.
Yeah.
Didn't really finish his runs very well. You have to put, in perspective, the game flow. You took a 14-0 lead. Utah State knows we're running on first down.
Right.
We know we're running on first down.
Yep.
We don't have an option to have a QB pull, so when you're out of shotgun, there's 2 or 3 gaps you're playing with. What we're going to have is some kind of counter where when you hand out a shotgun, it's not, so say running back's right, everyone thinks it's going, left to the center. We need some counter where it bends back right, or we're going to continue to see teams blitz on first down or gap AB on the left side.
Or just flip the running back at the last moment.
Yeah. But you're going to have to be a little more creative. I think what we saw from the run game was an aspect of just having a lead and not thinking too hard about it.
Yep. And I think they had some early, clearly this kind of reminded me of the Kentucky game where we had all of our scripted plays used in the first 3 drives. And we moved the ball consistently in all 3. Obviously, we scored in 2 plays in the first one. Had 2 really good drives that, end up sputtering out in drive 3 on a 4th and 1. But after we were up 14-0, we went back to base playbook week 1.
Yeah.
And so, you're not running really creative run plays. You're not really running counters. You're not really running, your good stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And Utah State's they understand how Iowa plays.
Yeah.
If we get a 2-possession lead, we're handing the ball off.
Yeah.
70% of the time, rest of the game, and they called it. And
Yeah.
it wasn't obviously the offensive line. If you have a thing you want to bring up about how they played poorly, it was the push on double teams. You never saw a guy get pressed to 4 yards on a double team or any sort of movement on the play side. That was the issue. We didn't have that strength play.
Yeah.
But I didn't see guys getting beat one-on-one. I didn't see guys getting shot through by linebackers. I just saw
A lot of
safeties who knew the run was coming and filling the hole.
Yeah.
And even on the 4th and 1, it was the 9th guy in the box that made the play.
Yeah.
It was a poorly called play.
Yeah.
Long developing power. Lachey probably should have got to the 2nd level.
Again, I think it's a 14-0 call.
Right.
It's all right. We have a 4th and 1 here. Let's just see if we can do power. Maybe we can run power this year on that set. And it's a lot of just not using plays. I think in most 4th and 1s this year, the ball is going to be in Cade's hands. I think teams are going to want to take away the run. They think that we're going to stick with that.
Right.
I think we're just going to be booting him a lot, making it because you saw the play in 4th down on the goal line.
Right.
Made an unbelievable throw to Eric Hall. That was not an easy throw, and he put it on the money.
I still think the run game will be serviceable.
Yeah.
At points. I think against lesser opponents, if you're in an early game with them, or maybe in the second half you need to close out a drive.
Yeah.
I still anticipate the run game to be there. When we play Penn State, when we play Wisconsin, when we play Minnesota, are we going to have enough of a run game to keep them honest where we're not in these 3rd and longs consistently?
I think what we're going to see, and this is like my takeaway just watching the game back a couple times, is if a team is going to line up in an aggressive set, one high single safety, you're going to have 7 or 8 in the box, depending on alignment. If it's 1st and 10, we're just going to throw.
Yeah.
We have a QB who can trust to make the correct decision and be accurate with the throw.
And it was weird to watch a QB on 3rd and 6 and go he's probably gonna make this throw.
Yeah.
I've
3rd and
watched
4s, I was like, we're getting this.
under Stanley and Petrus, every time it was 3rd and 5 or longer, I'm like, this is a dirt ball.
Yeah.
It's not being completed.
No.
And now it's like this game, he's
because
probably gonna make
it was not even necessarily their arm talent. Like those guys could potentially make those throws.
It was their processing.
It was their processing and also the belief factor. They would throw passes
Safely.
only one, I'm going to throw this to one spot. The guy's going to extend forward.
I'm gonna throw it at 120 miles per hour too, because it's not gonna get picked. They just did the no harm on 3rd down.
It's just the lack of confidence those 2 guys had themselves to place an accurate pass.
Right.
And now you have the guy who just believes he can make every throw.
Yeah.
And that's
it's gonna cost them more picks than those guys did.
Yeah.
And
it's going to, but that's okay.
Yeah.
If we're going to be a pass first offense, which it looks like we're going to probably lean that way.
More, yeah.
Yeah. With the talent we have. it's just such an awesome spot to be in.
Yeah.
'Cause we haven't watched this type of play in my lifetime where you're going to step back in shotgun and be like, all right, we're going to take 4 comfortably here.
Right.
If you're not going to respect our pass, we can hurt you. And that's like what people always get hung up on too. Like, oh, if Iowa can't run the ball, they're not going to be a good team. Like, that might not matter this year.
Right.
We might be a team who just tries to stay on schedule with our run.
And I think it's a good time to talk about the receivers. I think we saw some good, obviously Seth's first touchdown was incredible. Reganey still looks like he's having somewhat of a separation issue. He's having a hard time getting away from defenders. Caleb Brown had a really nice route. Obviously, I think he had actually a slant route too. He would have done some damage with it if it didn't go off a lineman's helmet. But I think the thing about receivers this year, Cade's going to trust you. You're not going to be that open.
Yeah.
It's going to be the year of the contested catch for the receiver.
Yeah.
Receivers, your ability this year, like the way you're going to have, impact on the team, you have to make one-on-one catches with a defender on your back or damn near close to you.
Yeah.
And he's going to trust you, but that's going to be the reality is that he's going to put it on you and you have to make a play.
Yeah.
And,
Now we can kind of move on to the tight ends too, because Lachey had a super dominant game. But again, he had dropped a touchdown pass. If we score a touchdown and go up 21-3 at the end of the half,
right,
I think this game is looked upon a lot differently. Because I think that we then maybe we pack one more on top.
Right.
And then we did. So it would have been a 28-31 point game for us. And we definitely should have. Like, we schemed up enough plays there.
Yeah.
But going back to what Cade can do, like, Lachey is going to have a huge year. Like, you're just not going to be able to line up and blitz us to death. Like, Cade's not going to freak out like Petrus did.
Yeah. I mean, both those third and longs where he got blitzed.
Yeah. He was incredible in third and long.
Yeah. The plays he had to kind of just move in the pocket away from the pressure.
Yeah.
And then to trust his guys to make a play.
Well, honestly, I think what we're going to see now, him showing that ability against blitz packages, is we're going to see teams actually back up on third down and make him, because he doesn't have exceptional arm talent to the sideline. We're going to see teams make him make tough throws to the sideline.
Yeah.
I don't think the scheme's going to be to blitz him, because he seems very comfortable in that spot.
Yeah.
Which is, again, odd.
Right.
I've never seen that from a QB at Iowa.
Yeah. It's rare.
We are happy to announce a new sponsor for the ANF Podcast. The ANF Podcast is sponsored by Eye Surgeons Associates, proudly serving Eastern Iowa and Western Illinois for all your eye care needs for over 40 years.
Watching the Iowa State UNI game, I went into the game thinking we're going to see, a different Iowa State team just do the suspensions.
Yeah.
They were very impressive.
Yeah.
They made a play early in the game that kind of, flipped momentum. It was a really exceptional play. Picked up a 5-yard out route on just a typical outside the numbers zone.
Yeah, it was there. The throw was there.
Rocco looked really good. Very accurate QB.
Yeah, he was impressive.
We saw kind of a rendition of what we're going to run against them. A lot of zone concepts.
Yeah.
Rocco threw well to the sideline on time, ball out.
Right. It seemed like he processed things very quickly. He just was a quick decision maker, has a really quick release. Has enough athleticism not to get trapped in the pocket.
Yeah.
It looks like they're not going to run him, which is a good thing. He's not that type of runner where QB Reed's going to come into play and you're going to hear us bring up QB Reed all year.
Yeah.
It's the one play. If you want to move the ball between the 20s against Iowa, you can run it at will.
You have to have it in your playbook too.
Yeah, but if you do have in your playbook between the 20s, we don't roll down to that nearly ever.
Yeah.
So you're going to have it all season.
We're not going to call it until third down. Then we'll maybe shift our linebacker.
It doesn't look like Iowa State has that.
No.
So that kind of adds a wrinkle that they've previously had when they had Purdy and Deckers, where they would actually use that play more often.
Yeah.
His legs don't look like you're going to actually use him as a runner, which does help them.
I think the size of him too. He's a very small guy.
Right.
And if you're thinking about, we saw JJ Cole for a drive and he's not ready.
Yeah.
So if they're going to try and
You don't want to
preserve
get
him
hurt,
for 4 quarters, we're likely going to see maybe 1 or 2 runs with him at most.
Yeah.
Which is huge because, again, if you're going to line up in shotgun, unless you have some kind of backside tail for your running back, we're going to be able to call slants. We're going to be able to call front side blitzes.
Yeah.
I think that's certainly going to help us stop the run game, especially early downs, first and second.
Their line struggled against UNI.
Yeah.
They didn't move them.
There's not an imposing bunch. It's just
No.
kind of a bunch of short, fat guys.
Yeah.
And against our D line, where it's going to be a lot of what we saw against USU, where we're going to lock them out.
Right.
And probably they're going to run for 2 or 3 yards of carry.
Yeah.
I guess.
They're going to, what they figured out and what they've, Campbell's been playing against us since 2017. They've completely adopted the short passing against us, game against us. And they used it, all in 2022.
Yeah.
Their 99-yard drive was just abusing our zone and abusing the short passing game. And basically we refused to step up and play, some sort of cover 2 or cover 3, and they just kept on checking down over and over. And I assume that's what we're going to see again this year. Like Beck looks like he's got the ability to process and read quickly.
Yeah.
I think once again, I think they're going to try to employ this between the 20s. And I have a hard time envisioning that. We brought this up in the season preview for the Iowa State game. This is a red zone game. Iowa's going to be very comfortable letting them move the ball between the 20s. But when the field gets smaller, those safeties step up.
Creep up a bit.
Your run game's not there. We're bigger and badder. Can you score in the red zone? And I think we're going to see Iowa State set up for field goals once again. They don't have that, athlete at quarterback to make a red zone play. They don't got the offensive line to make the red zone play to really get that push. And when Iowa gets in the red zone, that's where we live. Our offense is it's not built to move the ball between the 20s. It's about building, putting 2 tight ends and a fullback on the field and running outside zone into the end zone at the 8-yard line.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to try to play again. And that's what I anticipate from this game.
It's interesting, though, because you saw early in the Iowa State game last year, we did play a lot of actually cover 3.
Right.
What we were trying to stop the short passing game. I think what we saw late in that game is, again, us trying to get them to milk their own clock.
Right.
And I think we just believed in our red zone defense at that point. I think
we should have.
And we believed so little in our offense. We were like, our offense to be on the field is actually more scary than them with the ball and with potential to score.
Right. If they're doing our job for us,
let them do it.
We might freaking turn the ball.
And if
over
it wasn't for a fade ball where Brian Moss falls down,
well, the key play was the late hit from DeJean. That wasn't a late hit.
Yeah.
It would have been 3rd and 10 in the red zone where they haven't made a play in 6 years.
Yeah.
And they gave them the first down. It wasn't a late hit.
Well, and you can again I think, but what I was going back to is I think early in this game, you're not going to want to let them seize momentum, even with the field goal.
Right.
Watching their defense again, I don't think we're going to have a ton of success against them.
Yeah.
Especially with K's limited mobility.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of my idea going in this game was that he was going to be able to expose this 3-man rush.
Right.
With him not being able to run very well, I don't think we're going to have a lot of belief in this team.
But I still think he'll use the 3-man rush to our advantage.
I think he will. I certainly do, but I don't think we're going to be able to have like the QB draw, QB read game.
No, I don't envision that. I envision him extending plays.
Yeah.
Like slowly.
Yeah. But my point is that I think early in this game, we're going to make Rocco have to hit a pass over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not going to just let him nickel and dime us get in a rhythm.
Right.
We're going to see a bit more of an under coverage where we're not going to just let this ball out stuff happen to us.
Yep.
And especially without a run game, it's not difficult to envision where Iowa State's going to struggle to move the ball. I did see more skill talent than I expected, though. Mm-hmm. They have Higgins at receiver. I can't think of the other guy's name, number 13. He's a very good player.
Yeah. Oh, Noel.
Yeah, Noel's really good. 82, their tight end. It's got some real movement to him. I think he's a backup, but he's
looks like they have a stable running back second make plays.
Sama's good.
Yeah.
Norton's good.
Yeah. Their starter's good too.
Starter's good. Yeah. Eli Sanders, who spurned Iowa long ago in a recruiting trail.
Yeah.
They have good skill and they have good QB.
Yeah.
The O-line's just not there. So I think again though, like Iowa's going to come into this game and go, like you said, they're going to see that O-line and go, okay, you're not running the ball on the goal line.
Right.
They're going to feel pretty comfortable in this game.
Yeah, and I think we brought this up in the season preview as well, but we have I think we have a skill advantage. We have a quarterback advantage for the first time in a long time. Mm-hmm. I think for our tight ends as well. Like, Cade's accuracy against his zone defense is going to be everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to be dropping 8 guys, not 7, what you usually see.
Yeah.
So you just have to be a little tighter with your throws. Like, every time I watch Iowa State's defense, everything happens so fast.
Yeah.
It's just they've when you play the defense they play, their guys' roles are so simplified.
Yeah.
Like coverage is
4-yard.
They have like these like small zones.
Yeah.
And it's such a smart way to play because they can still stop the run in that system because they just all of a sudden 7 gap the entire run game.
They got the right mentality.
Right. And then all of a sudden their corner has like one responsibility.
Yeah.
Their deep safety's got one responsibility. And when you all of a sudden put the ball in there and this guy's like, I anticipated this route. This is the one thing that can beat me.
Yeah.
And you can see how fast they play. It's like you have to be so freaking accurate.
You have to be so precise.
And quick decision maker. You cannot hold the ball. And again, when Stanley and Petrus were back there, these guys just didn't have the confidence to make those throws. I think we're not gonna trust our run game as much as our run game did not look good. Like it just didn't have the type of power you needed to see in the push to run against these guys. Because if you couldn't run against Utah State, I have a hard time believing about run against Iowa State.
because of how I've watched like 4 or 5 Iowa State games back, and I was like watching how teams beat the defense. It made me really worried. I don't see how we're going to have a lot of success,
Right.
because unless you can hand the ball out of shotgun and you can get some push and honestly, the running back needs to beat guys.
Right.
Like the guy with the ball needs to, make a move, run through his shoulder.
Not good at. They're not exceptional athletes on their defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
They're all just very smart.
Yeah.
Like they're not. They kind of have the Iowa system of like, we're going to put back a thinker back there that might be a little bit late to something, but he's going to play it the right way.
Yeah.
And so you got to just beat him athletically.
I think, besides the short passing game to the tight ends, without Cade having, really exceptional arm talent to the sideline, which is where you can usually beat this team if you're going to throw, I think it's going to have to be the run game.
Yeah.
As weird as that is to say, I don't think it's going to be typical just inside zone. You have to run some key concepts. What I like to see is us run that 3 tight end set again.
Yeah.
I want to see us maybe use that pitch, trying to get the big guys in front of some small guys.
I think pin and pull against any 3 front, pin and pull is the key.
Because you're not worried about run throughs.
Right. And even watching like the Toledo Illini game, pin and pull, when you have a 3 front and your DNs are squared up on the tackle, they can win a 1-1 block.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden that opens up the entire, C gap to the sideline.
Yeah.
And so we saw a lot of the pitch plays against Utah State. I'd be surprised if we don't see Caleb getting a lot of stuff to the sideline.
It's going to be a lot of stuff to the edge.
Right.
Yeah.
Where you're hoping you can get that one key block on that tackle versus the end.
Yeah.
Because you cannot play these guys in A gap.
No.
Like the linebackers linebacker and nose tackle are playing both A gaps every play.
Yeah.
And the linebacker comes so freaking hard.
They do.
You just have no opportunity to like.
Yeah. And
your running back stopping your
everything's
feet.
so filling so fast behind
Right.
too. It's a brilliant scheme.
It is. Yeah.
And I forgot what I was going to say now, but I think the defense is just, it's going to limit so many of what things we do well that
100%.
unless you're running the ball well.
Well, it's like you watch back, you really need like an athlete at QB where
You do.
you run these, they all of a sudden they have these 3 rushers where, they have no pass rush, but your QB extends a play for freaking 12 seconds.
Yeah.
And then he either runs for 8 or dumps it off to somebody.
Yeah.
And I think, truly, I don't think Cade's mobility is limited, but I think Cade's going to flow with the play pretty well. And he has the poise to find somebody in space against zone. And I think that's what I anticipate to see is Cade just be all right, you're going to rush 3. I'm going to find a little pocket on either sideline. I'm going to narrow down to half the field, and I'm going to try to hit somebody after the play. We're going to run a bunch of drills this week of extend the play to the sideline and try to find a guy in the hole.
Yep.
I think that's the key of the game is that we're going to have to just trust Cade to extend plays and not run, but extend the throw.
A key thing to look at, what I was going to say, is Iowa State on short yardage, we cannot run the ball on short yardage against these guys. They're going to 8-man gap you.
Yep.
It's going to be an absolute mess from the minute the ball is snapped.
Yeah.
What I'm looking for on 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, please do not run the ball.
Right.
If that happens, I'm going to lose a lot of faith in Brian.
Right.
Because you watch back these games, and every time we get in this scenario with short yardage, you see the kind of the light front by them, and then just in a blink, they're all in the backfield.
Detonate the line of scrimmage.
If we see that, that's going to be very frustrating. Because you have Cade now. You don't have Petrus. You can trust someone with the ball.
Right.
You can get him making accurate throws.
It's the key of the game. I think it's why Cade is such an exciting player to have is that if this is any other QB right now, I'm this is going to be probably a loss.
Yeah.
But now you have this QB where, Brian will trust him. He knows that he played against him. He clearly trusted him game 1 to make a lot of decisions.
Yeah.
It's going to come down to his, essentially his shoulders. And I think if I want to, predict this game, I think we should do our final predictions now.
Yeah.
But I think if I'm going to predict this game, I trust in Cade's ability to make a few more plays than Becht.
Yeah.
And a few more plays than the Iowa State offense, just because you have Lachey and all as well. You have these true NFL talents. I don't know if Iowa State's got an NFL talent on offense. I think we still have the line of scrimmage advantage that we always do in this series.
Yep.
I think the game's going to come down to Cade making a few more plays than a redshirt freshman QB, and I think that's why we come out on top in the end.
Yeah. I do think we win this game after talking it all through. I think it's going to be very close, though.
It will, because we're going
I
to.
think it's going to be very low scoring.
It's a red zone
you
game.
Talk through their scheme. I'm seeing all these Iowa State highlights in my head where it's man, moving the ball is just arduous.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen fast.
Right.
I think the only pass scheme that watched a couple of games back is people had a lot of success running wheels on them. And that, that's it's kind of similar to that slot fade.
Yeah.
Is we're going to see guys with standstill safeties at 10 yards where if you can get it behind them,
Yeah.
and you're just going to give a receiver a chance, and that's a
We'll
ball
take
that
some
Shea
shots.
throws. Yeah, it's the 3-man rush. You have to take some shots.
Right. You have to put that, you have to make them blitz. You have to make them rush more because if you get a 3-man rush and you can stand back there and cue something up where someone's at full speed.
Well,
going
I
to
don't think
safeties.
they're going to be very aggressive on first down too, unless we have the lead and they know we're just going to hand the ball off. I think when it's 0-0, I think they're going to have to play a little passive,
Right.
Because they're not going to say, okay, they're not going to throw at Petrus,
Right.
Like again, short passing games should be alive in this game.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah, I think final score, if I had to, put a number on it, I think at most we score 20.
Yeah.
I think they end up somewhere around 16. I think they're going to, again, struggle in the red zone. I think they're going to move the ball, though.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see both teams move the ball pretty well.
Yeah.
But I don't think either team's going to have any success
I think
in
it's
the red
going
zone.
to have like the Iowa Field where Iowa State actually moves the ball better than we do between the 20s.
Yeah.
I think they actually have more drives that get into our 35-yard line. But I think 20 to 16 is like kind of where I see it as well.
Yeah.
Where I think Iowa's just going to have, it's going to punch in a few more of those opportunities.
Yeah.
And I think Iowa State settles for field goals. And that's how, Iowa State might have 8 times they get on our side of the field, or maybe 6 times.
Yeah.
And we might only have 5, but we might score 3 touchdowns off that. Or
I think
2
you
touchdowns.
just also have to take in consideration, too. It's like without a run game, without a QB read game, and just you got Cooper and you got X. And what we
Right.
saw from Deshaun Lee, I'm very comfortable with him against most teams.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be outmatched in this
He's
game.
going to be a good player.
They're gonna attack him because he's really the only option, but that's maybe not a great place to attack.
Right. He's going to be, a Phil Parker corner. And end of this year, when Deshaun Lee comes back, it's going to be a positive.
Especially with how well Higgins played.
Right.
Man, I'm talking myself into the under right now. It's like I don't really see this team having a ton of success.
Yeah.
If you're not pushing us around and you don't have a QB who can move the ball with his legs,
Right.
that means a lot of tight window throws.
With the Gene and X on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's going to be just a great
It's
game.
gonna be a great game.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fun time.
Yeah. What's your final prediction?
2016,
Yeah. I honestly do the same thing.
Yeah. which is under. All right. Well, it's without further ado now, because we'll do a quick recap of the picks, but I went 2-1. I lost my opening bet. Gophers laid an absolute turd against Nebraska. Still won the game, sadly. The Northwestern and Rutgers under was in question a little bit early in the game, but then Rutgers just absolutely packed their bag and said, we're just going to run the ball 3 times.
It was the Kirk Soraka game plan.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Just lived in the slop, and it all worked out. Northwestern looked like the most inept offense I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yep.
Granted, Rutgers is a very well-taught, good scheme, good players, defense. But it went so bad for Northwestern. I think they didn't run for like 10 yards.
Yeah.
What was my other bet? Under in Iowa, USU.
Yeah.
Again, scary start.
Yeah.
But
Kirk. Yeah.
what we talked about is that when we just go shell defense and we're going to let you milk the timeout,
Pretty clearly, the contract provision is not being focused on.
did not dictate our play at all.
We pulled Cade with only 9 possessions.
Yeah.
10-minute mark, 9-minute mark. We had Deacon Hill in there.
I think it's always just a safe bet to take Iowa because you just have long possession games.
Right.
And with long possession games, it takes one fuck up on the 35.
Right.
And you're punting or you're kicking a field goal.
Yeah. Yep. So I went 1-2. I stated on the podcast I bet on Graham Mertz on the road, and I mean Florida was just their defense was just so poorly coached, and I think between the Illini and Florida they had like 240 yards of penalties. Illini had 9 penalties and that were worth 90 yards in the first half. Never even seen that before.
Yeah.
Toledo's a real program. Like they went like blow for blow against them. That was a bad bet to start. Florida had an opportunity to cover in the pass. Like
Yeah, they almost backdoored it.
Rising was out.
Yeah.
I predicted that correctly. I got 6.5 before the line dropped, but it was like Billy Napier did not get this
not
team
shine.
ready.
No.
Like, and you can't lose to a walk-on QB.
No.
Can't let him go for 75 yards on the first play.
Yeah.
So, like we mentioned before, I went 1-2. So I'm going to do a punishment. We have some Da Bomb sauce from Hot Ones, which is the spiciest hot sauce on that show. I'm going to do a chip with it. It says only use 1 drop, but since I had 2 losses, I have to put 2 drops on it. I'm going to eat it, and then we're going to make our new picks for this week. 1, 2, 3. Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Do it. Oh, Yeah, it just keeps on coming.
Talk through it.
Oh, it's actually not, I'm doing pretty well.
Good.
I heard it burned for like extent. I guess getting worse. Yeah, it's just coming.
The more you talk about it, the more air you get on it.
Yeah. Oh man.
All right. Should we do the next picks?
Yeah, that's oh my gosh, I shouldn't breathe. Like if I
Yeah,
breathe,
that's why you have to talk through it.
fire.
You have to talk through it though.
Fire. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. All right.
This is what you get for bad grammar on the
Mertz.
road.
Oh, I'm actually have tears.
Yeah.
Oh, is beer help?
I don't know.
I don't know. All right.
All right.
Bets this week. If I beat them plus 3.5. Illinois plus 3.5 versus Kansas. We're trusting them again. Illinois plus 3 against Kansas. Kansas fucking sucks. Northwestern plus 1.5 versus UTEP. UTEP is not a program. They are not a program. They're a favorite on the road against a Big Ten team. And the under 37.5 Northwestern UTEP. Oh my God.
All right. So I'll now take over the talking because Kyle's dying. So I originally had ISU plus 4. I was talking myself into this one just because I don't see us having a ton of success against their defense. I could see them having a late score. We're up 2 scores. But then after we talked through the whole game sitting here, I do think we're going to have a fair amount of success in the passing game against them, especially a short passing game. And then you just kind of, you play out what's going to happen with their offense against our defense. I think the under 36.5 is just a good bet. It's going to be a long possession game. You're going to need, 1 or 2 fuck-ups a half to get this underneath. That's likely going to happen in a rivalry game. It's going to be some nerves. Both teams are going to be very nervous.
I'm not
to
listening.
Make
I haven't heard one word.
My other bet, I'm sticking with 2 other just stinker teams. Rutgers, Temple, under 46.5. Temple chucks the ball around, which is why I think we're seeing a larger number than we probably should here. But they ran for like 2 yards a carry in their last game against Akron. So Rutgers is going to be very comfortable playing their style of defense against them. It's going to be largely man-to-man. Temple might have success in the pass game, but I think they're going to run for so little. They're not going to stay on schedule. And when Rutgers gets the ball, what we saw is that they're going to be very patient. Then if Rutgers is a 9-point favorite, so you get a Rutgers lead, we're going to see a lot of what we saw against Northwestern, where it's going to be a very slow-paced game. They're not going to really try and score. They're going to try and prevent making mistakes, putting the ball away. Final pick, I went a couple different ways on this. I think the under 37.5 for Northwestern UTEP is the play. UTEP just wants to run the ball. They ran the ball 50 times against Incarnate Word. In the game prior against Jacksonville State, they lost 17-14. They ran the ball 46 times, maybe it's 42 times. Northwestern, I think, is going to go away from their passing QB and go to their QB read QB. So you're going to see them be a little bit more deliberate in how they move. I don't know if we'll see as much up-tempo again because they want to protect their defense. They realize they actually suck on offense. So I think we're going to see just another stinker there. So if you're building out a playbook here, I like unders. I went 2-1 and my first 2 picks. I won my 2 unders. I'm going 3 unders again.
Donnie unders.
Donnie down under. So, those are my 3 picks. Again, thanks for all the support. If you've listened to the full thing and you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. It really helps us out.
It's for free.
Also, below the video, you should have a thanks button. If you want to make a donation to the channel, please go ahead and do so. But again, appreciate all the support. If we see any of you guys down at the Iowa State tailgate, we'll have a spot down there. We're going down with a couple of our friends. But yeah, hopefully we're walking away with the win and moving on to week 3.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.